Okay, this next extension activity is destroying the evil sprite. You don't need to have done the realistic jumping or horizontal movement, but they help. Now, our unicorn has this deadly weapon, it's a blue horn. And what I want to happen here is, okay, if the sprite touches the unicorn in any other place, then the unicorn dies. But if the unicorn touches the sprite first with the horn, then the sprite dies. So that's what we want to do. Okay. Now, the way to do that, well, if we look in the costumes of our Sprite 1, we have this kind of bowed head costume. What I want to do is switch so that when we press, in this case, the B, it will bow the head, then the sprite will literally walk into the horn. That's the idea. Okay. So, to do that, is I am going to add in the script of our unicorn a if and a sensing. I'm going to use a sensing rather than an event for this, and it's going to be if the key pressed, and the key is going to be if B is pressed. Okay. Then, and a very simple one would be just to switch costume to say left unicorn 3. If I put that in the forever loop, and we run that, here's our unicorn walking around, and if I press the B, there it goes. Perfect. But there's a problem with that, is I'm going this direction, I press the B. We've now got our unicorn moonwalking again. So, somehow I need to know what direction the unicorn is facing first. To do that, I'm going to make another variable. That variable, I'm going to call it direction. And it's going to be a local variable again, just for our unicorn. So, okay. Now, everywhere where we've got the switch costume, I need to also now set that variable. So, I'm going to go set direction to left and set direction to right. Okay, so I'm telling it, if we run this now, and let's have direction switched on. If I go left, it says left. If I go right, it goes right. And you can see that just here. I can now use that in an if statement. So I can go if direction is equal to left. Then, now I could either put that inside there or that inside there, or I could use an or statement, but for now I'm going to drop that inside there. We're going to try that in the forever loop now. So I press the B command, down it goes. But now if I'm facing right and I press the B command, nothing happens. Very easy. I can now repeat this, but in this case, if direction is right, then it would be right unicorn 3. Now, nested ifs are all well and good. I prefer to actually use an or statement. So yes, you can do that, and yes, that will work. But it's a bit clunky. But if we try that, I can now, if I'm going right and I press the B, and if I'm going left, I press the B. And if we rerun the game now, what I want to happen is basically we can come up, and at that point, boom, the sprite would die. So this is part 2. Right now, so part 2 is going to be what happens if our unicorn, now it can bow its head, it actually touches the sprite with the horn first. So I've gone to the sprite 1, I'm in the costumes, and I'm going to pick right unicorn for this. You notice I left a small bit of the horn off the end, and that's so that we can add a little bit of colour here. It has to be a unique colour, something you haven't used before. I'm going to use the blue, and I'm going to pick a blue. Now, on this now. Actually, you can zoom in, and I'm just going to paint a little extra bit of a spike on the end here. So I'm using the paintbrush. I've chosen my colour. I can now go just there. Okay. I'm going to do the same for the other one. So I'm just going to pick same colour. It's important, same colour. And just there. And that can't be a colour you've used elsewhere. If you have used that blue in the background somewhere, then you can pick any other colour you like. Right. Let's minimise. So I've given it a small blue tip. That's really important. And there's my script. Now back to my Sprite 2. Now, so at the moment, Sprite 2 says, if touching Sprite 1, which is our unicorn, stop everything. That's the end of the game. Well, now, before it gets to that point, I want to ask something else. So I'm going to go to Control, and I'm going to use an if-else. Then I can actually say, well, if touching Sprite, and if touching Colour, and the colour is the blue tip, then hide. Otherwise, stop all. So if it touches the sprite, but it then touches the tip of the unicorn's horn, it hides. Otherwise, it does stop the game. If we put that back in now, and just to test it, I'm going to take the unicorn, bow the head, and here we go. It didn't work. Now let's have a look. Why I think the reason it's not working is because I've got just the wrong shade of blue on there. Let's run this again. Let's try. And there we go. So what happened there? Right. What happened there is the rest of the unicorn horn is also blue, and I just clicked on the wrong bit. Okay. You'll now notice one weird thing is the Sprite 2 is still moving backwards and forwards. But because it's hidden, we're absolutely fine on our control. So the game still carries on going. In fact, if you want, you could also add a score at that point, as well as hide. You could even increase the score. So you could go into the data and set score to score +1. Yep, that could be another extension you could add in just there. Now, one thing, if you do run it, you need to include in the setup a show, because you've hidden it, but if we don't have a show, the next time we run it, it's still hidden, and you can just walk right through it, and there you go. So we need in the setup now to also add a show. There we go. So when it runs now, back it comes. Oops, I didn't press B in time. Let's try this again. Back it comes. And there we go. Right, it's that simple. Now you've got an ability to kill your ghosty by hitting it with the horn, and you can do your charging. Nice and simple. Right. Well, you have that code. Remember, you've got 2 bits of code. There's a bit of code added in here, and a bit of code added in there. You need to copy both bits. You can, of course, pause this video, rewind it, and check as you go. And that's the next extension task. Away you go.